and welcome to the Cheer Up Podcast. I'm your host, Kara Hunt, and with me, as always, is the beautiful and lovely Sherry Swalwell. How are you today, Sherry?
I am fantastic. We are in summer mode. School has officially ended for the year, and we're still trying to figure out our new normal for the summer. But I tell you what, I love the slower pace. I love the warmer days. I love the sunshine. So, yeah, today is great. How about you?
Sunshine here as well. So I am loving today. And to add to the sunshine, we have a special guest. We have none other than the USA Today best-selling author, Robin Patchen. Hey, Robin, thank you for joining us this morning. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm honored to be on your podcast. Glad to be here.
I am too. And this is all part of our summer reading series. And so we are going to be talking a lot about Robin, a little bit maybe, I guess, about her writing journey, and definitely about her books. But a little bit of background. I have been knowing Robin personally for 10 years now. As of April 1, we celebrated our quit anniversary. Am I right, Robin?
That sounds right, which I can't believe it's been 10 years. Where has the time gone? That's insane.
I know. That's what I was saying. And I'm like, what? Really? Has it already been 10 years? And I just saw the thing this morning, and I was like, wow, that was on April 1. So, yes, It has been 10 years that we have worked together, talked together, shared stories together, created for each other, reviewed each other's books. And she's also a good friend, so I'm so glad to have her today. And, hey, Sherry, did you want to say anything else to Robin?
I am just really, really excited. I'm trying to think. So you guys have known each other for 10 years, and I was trying to come up with a really cool joke centered around the whole April Fool's Day that you guys got a blessing instead of a joke on April Fool's. But I'm not really that good at jokes, so I thought maybe I won't do that. But I'm trying to think how many years ago it was that I started reading Robin's books. You and I have been friends forever, around 10 years or so also, but I didn't meet Robin through you, but then when you told me that she was part of your quit group, I was like, oh, you are so blessed. But I want to say the first book I read of yours, Robin, was Convenient Lies, and I fell in love with it. And then I've just read all of them ever since. And there are a few that have stuck with me. Like, you know how there are books that just you can't stop thinking about the characters? Your Beauty and Flight series, I know we're not talking about that one today. I still to this day cannot stop thinking about Harper and the grandfather. And I mean, like, I can totally visualize that whole entire thing from the beach house to the cottage or cabin up. I want to say it's up like in Maine or Massachusetts or something.
It's in New Hampshire. All my stories are in New Hampshire.
Sorry, I get all of my New England things.
That's okay.
Yeah, all about it.
Sure,
yeah,
I'm sure.
So I mean,
I do the same thing with the ones in the middle, Indiana, Iowa,
exactly.
Illinois. I'm like, it's one of those 5 states, you know?
Is it the one with the corn? Is it the one with the snow? Which one is
exactly?
Yep. So I love that series too. I love Convenient Lies. I still to this day cannot stop thinking about those. I don't remember their names, but I remember what happened, especially the scene in the kitchen at the very end. Your books are very the word is escaping me, but memorable. Your books are very memorable. They're the kind that stick with you long after. And the one the two that we get to talk about today, can I be a part of that community, please? Like, I want to be friends with those people.
I know, right? I do too.
Yes. Yeah, they're like awesome. I cannot believe it. So, So that is how I'm going to start out. And then, Kara, you can take it from there. And don't worry, I'll be jumping in.
Well, we'll just let Robin tell us about all of her books. Because like you, Sherry, I was a huge fan of the Beauty and Flight series. And I know exactly the one you're talking about, with the grandfather and all of that. And
yes.
a lot of her series, yes.
Harper's character is so different from most people, and I think that's why she's so memorable, but different in a good way. Like at first I couldn't figure out if I thought she was a snob or if I thought she was just, I don't know, I couldn't figure it out, but I grew to love her. Like honest to goodnessly love her. I wanted to be her, kind of. I mean, she had a lot of danger, so I say kind of, but
maybe not that part.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's funny. Well, you know,
yeah, and you write romantic suspense. And so that makes it so much better because not only are your books super romance, but they're also full of lots of really, really good suspense. So I think I cut you off. I just wanted to let our listeners know that is a genre you write in, and you're very good at it.
Well, thank you. I love that. And, you know, it's funny because no one ever talks about those beauty books. I hear about the Lies series a lot, and then the beauty books came next. And a lot of my readers kind of fall off there, and I don't know why, because I love writing those books. Harper was a unique character because she had this really ugly past. And so it kind of takes a minute to go, do I like this person? Like she is a little unusual, but the way that she loves the man that she takes care of, like a grandfather, I just think that redeems her character immediately. And the way that when it starts, you know, she's working in a nursing home, and you can just tell that she loves those people so much. And so all this ugly stuff in her past is just you sort of love her anyway, because here she is, this really kind soul who loves the people that the Lord puts in her life. So anyway, I really loved writing there's 3 little books, and I'm actually contemplating putting them all in one book, because I think the fact that there are 3 of them, I think maybe throws some people off.
Yeah. Seriously, I think you should.
Yeah, I may do that. I think a lot of people don't like that, and so if I put them all together, maybe people will just keep, because it's longer than a normal book, but maybe it would be 500 pages or 450 pages, something like that. It's not like it would be so long that it would be unruly a single book. But that's why I split it up, because it was such a long story that I couldn't figure out how to make it a normal length story.
Well, I think so Thanksgiving and Christmas, because my schedule's pretty busy, just like a lot of people. So Thanksgiving weekend and then the Christmas holiday, I purposefully choose bigger books. So like The Masterpiece by Francine Rivers or E. Henderson, her books are long. I don't think people will have a problem with it if it's 400 or 500 pages. I really don't. I think that they'll be like, oh, and that will be like a special occasion book for them that they get to read because they really want to savor it, not just, a nice afternoon or weekend read. I think people would love it. That's my opinion. Okay. As a reader.
Well, I love to hear that because you're a reader, so and I'd love to see more people read that series. You know, I loved that series like you. It was a good one. And that, there were 11 of them together that all took place in that field, that little town, that little fictional town in southern New Hampshire. And I still want to go back there. That feels like home to me. And I love country too, where the new book takes place, it's more of it's a different good town, but that feels very much like the little town I grew up in. Well, let me rephrase that. It's like the little town I grew up in, but years before I moved there. So it was a little town. It's gotten to be quite a big town at this point, but I missed those when there was just one little corner store, and that was it.
And where exactly did you grew up in? Is it Londonderry, New Hampshire?
Londonderry.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's just about 35, 40 miles north of Boston, right off the interstate. So my dad's an airline pilot. He flew out of Logan Airport in Boston. And so, he had to make that drive, but only a couple times a week, of course, because he was on like multi-day trips. So, it was a great place to grow up. Great, sweet little town. It's a unique town because it's filled with apple orchards, which they're now cutting down, which is the saddest thing in the world. But just apple orchards everywhere you turn it. I don't know if you know this, but apple orchards are beautiful. In the spring, they have these little white flowers, and then, of course, the apples are so pretty and fragrant. You just drive by and smell the apples. And that just is such I don't know. It was just a charming little town, just a cute, charming little town, and I miss it. I live in Texas now, and it's not the same. I can tell you that.
No, yeah. Small town, kind of bigger, because like everything in Texas is big, right? You know. But so was Londonderry the town that inspired the Nutfield series?
It was
the series based in Nutfield. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Londonderry is in a region of southern New Hampshire that when the settlers first came to that part of the world, they called it Nutfield because it was covered in nut trees. And so that would be like the whole Merrimack Valley area, which is like Londonderry, Derry. I don't know what all the little towns there are, but Nutfield, the original name of that town of Londonderry was Nutfield. And so there's little places you'll drive around. There's like the little Nutfield country store. And then, there's just that word is just very much associated with Londonderry, more so than the other towns in the area. And so that's why I picked it. And I've had readers tell me that's a strange name for a town in the suspense series. It's almost whimsical, the name. And I'm like, well, sorry, that's the name I went with because it was my home. That was actually the name of that area. Actually, Nutfield in the story takes place closer to the coast than where my town is, because where my town is all built up. It's right off the interstate. So I had to move it out. So it's actually closer. The Nutfield in my books is actually closer to like the Raymond, New Hampshire area, which is sort of between Manchester and the beach. So anyway, that's more geography than anybody on your podcast probably.
Oh, no. But you know what? It's a great visual, right? And a history lesson. Like I don't think, as a matter of fact, let me think really quick, and I'm thinking quickly because I could be wrong. I don't think have I ever went to I think the only part of the East Coast, Pennsylvania isn't the East Coast, is it, or is it?
Pennsylvania is. Pennsylvania is sort of south of New York and north of Washington, D.C. It's in that neighborhood.
Okay, so then technically
you've been up that way.
That's about as far as I've been. On the East Coast, I haven't been any farther. I have always wanted to visit New Hampshire, though. That has always been on one of my to-do lists on the East Coast, is to visit that area, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and, and things like that. I haven't had a chance to do it yet. So they're still on my to-do list, but,
I said one of the days you'll get there. So you need to go in October when it's beautiful and all the leaves come out. It's really pretty.
And when it's beautiful and everything. And so when you paint beautiful pictures like that, and like I've been reading your stories, I mean, from Finding Amanda to the Live series to, and all these series over the past 10 years. And, well, even though Nutfield wasn't with the Amanda series, I don't think, but, when you started doing the Nutfield, I never knew that was the original name of the town that you grew up in, or a historical part of the name that grew up in. So see, we learn everything new. I just thought one day you were typing and go, Nutfield sounds great. I think I'm going to use Nutfield.
Well, you know this about me, Kara. I'm terrible at coming up with names. I'm terrible at coming up with titles. That's awful. So I was like, Nutfield, I'm using it.
Yeah, right? No. This works. It's so great. So tell us about your latest series. Oh my goodness, I don't know. And one thing, and I probably said this before, I know I've said it probably to you like a gazillion times when I return some of your stuff to you and everything else, but the one thing I always love about your books is that they are unpredictable. I cannot predict the endings. And that to me is what makes an author, even if I didn't know you, even if you weren't a friend, even if I hadn't worked with you, that's something that to me puts an author on my must-read list, is because if I can figure out the story before I'm done with it, then I'm bored. Why do I need you, right? That's kind of like, it's like, I already know how this is going to end, And so when I get, when I read books and I'm going, I think she's going this direction. I think this is what she's going to do, right? This is going to be, and then it's like, poop, oops, I was wrong. Okay. So, and that is, I love suspenseful reads like that, right? And so, but go ahead and tell us about your latest works.
Well, so I started a new series, and this is the Coventry Saga, and these take place in another fictional town in New Hampshire that's actually up in the mountains. So the White Mountains of New Hampshire, they're actually the tallest mountains east of the Mississippi. And so they've got like lots of ski areas, but there's lots of lakes up there. It's really a beautiful area. And my kids and I went hiking on Rousick Mountain. Oh, it's been a couple of years now, and I was up in that area, and I thought, okay, this is where my next series is going to be. And so I made up this little town that's up in sort of the Holderness, Lake Winnipesaukee area. Made up a little lake, and so my latest books take place up there. And so I think I'm about to publish my 6th, Inheritance of Secrets. Comes out next week. Actually, I can't wait. So excited. And you're talking about not being able to know how something's going to end. I know you're a writer too. That is really hard to do. It is hard to trick your readers, which is basically what we're saying. Like, we want to lead you down a path and then be like, ha ha, you're wrong. That is really hard to do. And I have failed at it often. I think, I've had a lot of, so Kara and I have this mutual friend named Peg. And Peg is very smart, and she is always thinking. And so every time I read a book, she's like, I figured it out. I knew who it was in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
And so this time she was like, I had no idea. I was like, yes, I finally tricked Peg. That's like my life goal,
Your life goal.
So, it was. And the reason that it worked is because I didn't know who it was until the end. So I wasn't like putting all the obvious hints in there, because I was like, oh, I don't know. Who is this person? Yeah, so that was, it's hard to do, though. Hard to do. As you know,
well,
having
had the privilege of reading it, oh my gosh, I loved the ending. Loved it. And you're right, I had no idea. It was brilliant. Brilliant.
Well, thank you. It was actually probably lucky or God. So I was all the way, and I won't use any names, but all the way until I was literally the last 3 or 4 scenes of the book. I was like, oh, maybe the last 8 scenes of the book. I was like, oh, that's not who did it. I'm wrong about that. And then I had to go back and rewrite and check and make sure that I really could do it. And I could. So that's why it was a trick, because I didn't know who did most of the part. So, I guess I first have to trick myself.
Well, and without giving any spoilers, I'm going to be very, very careful with what I say next. I love how you wrapped it all up, even though it was very realistic, which that's one of the things I absolutely love about your books, is that they're realistic.
Yeah.
I was sad, but I was appropriately sad as a reader. But I think I would have been incredibly disappointed if you had done it any other way. So,
right.
loved how you did that. But man, I was like, oh, really?
Yeah. I know that it was hard. That was one thing, and of course the listeners don't know what we're talking about, but that was one thing I did know from the beginning, that it was going to have that sort of bittersweet ending. And the truth is that if everything always wraps up in a nice little bow, it's a lovely idea, but it's not real. And so that doesn't really resonate with people. It doesn't resonate when you go, oh, in fiction, these stories, everyone thinks is perfect. It's like, no, it's not. And sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but I can say my life doesn't wrap up in a nice little bow. Sometimes it is bittersweet. And so, I don't know, I feel like there's a connection there with readers where you can say, yeah, things aren't always perfect, but we still have God, and He's always good.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the responsibilities as a fiction writer, is to show that hope despite the non-happily ever after ending sometimes. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? Yeah, go ahead, Robin. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, actually, I forgot what I was going to say, so it must have been a lie. That's what I always say.
No.
I like that.
I do too. It's like, and no, what I was going to say, you were talking about your life and real life versus books, and everything in a pretty little bow. And it's just interesting because in life, in real life, I want to know all the steps. I want to know how it's going to end, right? I'm like, God, can you give me a plan? Just give it to me. I want to know all the steps from A to Z in this situation. And of course, it doesn't happen, right?
Right.
We have to walk by faith.
Like, am I in the dark moment, or is this a new catalyst? Where am I in my life? Am I about to break into 3 and there's going to be some magical finale? Like, I want to know where I am on the plot line of life, So,
exactly, on the plot line of life. I love that.
This is the dark before the dawn. You're like, okay, good, dawn is coming. Okay, good, I can live with it. But, you're like, no, this is actually the first chapter. Like, no.
Yeah, right. You're like, wait, what? And he doesn't reveal all of that to us because we have to walk step by step, learn, trust, have faith, and everything else. And I think, like you said, Robin, if he was to tell us like, well, no, this is going to be kind of like a long, dark journey for you, we probably would faint. We would be like, no, I can't, not again. I can't do it, Lord, and so we don't know the end. It's very unpredictable on our Christian journey. And I think maybe because it's, like that, I desire that in our walk with God, even though I know that's not going to happen. But it's like in life, I'm like, I wish I knew how everything was going to end. I like that in life. But in my books, I love to be surprised. In life, not so much.
It's often it works the other way, where the books are predictable and life is completely unpredictable. So yeah, you're like, I want to, I want it just the opposite. I want unpredictable books and predictable life.
Yes, yeah. It's like, thank you. It's like I want them this way, and this is how I want it, and everything. And it's so, and you just do such a great job of just weaving these stories together. And if you can, just give us a little background into Inheritance of Secrets, just the main characters, kind of like the back cover summary, if you can pull it from memory.
Okay. Well, or I could just look at that little book I have next to me, which would be even simpler. So this is the story of Aspen, and Aspen grew up in Hawaii. So she's lived in Hawaii as long as she can remember, with her father, a single father. There was no mom. So I'll just read the back cover copy. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you the little setup, because her father he's riding his bicycle one day and he gets hit by a car. And so he's taken to the hospital. And so our first scene happens when Aspen rushes to the hospital to see him. And he needs to be intubated, but he refused to let them do it until he could talk to her. And what he says to her, he says a number of things, but it basically boils down to this quote: "I didn't do right by your mother. Find her and do what I never had the courage to do." So the thing is that Aspen, all her life, she has known that her mother is missing and presumed dead. And her dad basically says, I don't know what happened to her. Something terrible happened and she took off, and I haven't seen her since. But when he tells her this, find her, Aspen realizes her dad has not been honest with her. He knows a lot more than he ever said. Unfortunately, he doesn't survive. And so she never finds out what happened. And so then he dies, and she inherits a house in New Hampshire, which is a lot. So our story sort of moves from Hawaii to New Hampshire. At that point, her goal is to find out what happened to her mother and, sort of quote unquote do right by her. She doesn't know what that means. She doesn't know what her mother was talking about. But she's determined to do it. She loved her father, but the other thing is that she, her inner journey is sort of this belief that she doesn't know her mother, she'll never know herself. Her mother, she knows enough of her mother to know that she had some mental illness. And so she's lived her whole life with this fear that she is going to be like her mother in that respect. And so it's like she thinks, if I never figure out who my mother is, I'll never really know who I am, because I am her daughter and my dad's daughter. And so through the journey, she learns a lot of things about her mother that are not always great things, because her mother was mentally ill and she had serious issues. So she goes to New Hampshire to find his house, and the house needs to be fixed up. And so, of course, we have a hunky contractor who is going to sort of walk the journey with her. He's helping her redo her house, but he's also the only person she knows in the company. They become friends. And ultimately, they have this sweet little romance while she tries to figure out what happened to her mom, which would be all great, except that there are people in town who don't want those secrets to come out. So anyway, that's sort of my my quick and dirty, what's this book about?
I love
And that sounds very interesting. And Sherry, what was some of your? I mean, you've mentioned some of them, but what did you want to ask Robin? About that book and her series and some of your favorite parts of it, without spoilers, of course.
I know. So I want to ask her this one question, but I will not do it on air because I will ruin the book for everybody else. So I will ask her later. But because I did have one question, I was like, oh, but no, I won't ask that one now. But I love
Okay.
Oh my goodness, he reminded me so much of my husband. And then when I can find a the secondary, the hero, not heroine.
Mm-hmm.
I never know what to call them because I don't really consider the men in the book secondary characters. Like, to me, they're just as main. Anyway, when I can find one that reminds me of my husband, it's like a winner. And Garrett, oh my gosh, the fact that he met her by clearing off the driveway and the sidewalk, be still my heart. Yeah. That's what my husband does. Like, he's all those little details that he did throughout the book. And her reactions were kind of like my reactions, like, why are you doing this? Like, when I first met my husband, not now, we've been married 23 years. Now I'm like, oh, you are so awesome. Let me make you your favorite dessert. But, but when we were first dating, I was like, why am I getting the special treatment type of thing? So, I mean, her reactions were awesome. He was just amazing. I love, like I've said before, I absolutely love this community that they're in. If you haven't read, you have to read Touch of Innocence before you read. Well, you really should read the whole entire series, but Touch of Innocence.
That's good advice.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you read the whole series, it will enrich it so much more. But Touch of Innocence, reading that before Inheritance of Secrets, oh my word, like amazing. And I fell in love. So I know I'm supposed to be talking about Inheritance of Secrets, but I have to go back just a little bit. I fell in love with Grace and the little girl. I'm sorry, I cannot remember her name, but Andrew
Lily.
And Grace, Lily. Oh, like amazing. And it ties so well in to this book that you will get so much more out of it as a reader if you read both together. But again, read the whole series. But I love the community that is built between all of these people. Like, this is the way that I think that the world needs to go back to. Like, this is an example of community, of biblical community, of people taking care of each other, not having any hidden motives or hidden agendas. But if you need help, I'm there for you, type of a thing. Like, who doesn't want to live in that kind of a community? And nowadays, you barely even see your neighbors because everybody's doing their own thing or sequestered in their house or whatever. And God doesn't have us live that way. So, I seriously just absolutely devoured this book. It was so good. And it's still sticking with me, like all the little details and all the little pieces and parts. And I don't know if I loved Ashton more or Garrett more, but they were great. And then just continuing that community between all of them is just, and then the suspense, you get the suspense part in there too. And you got me on it. Like, I had no idea. And I do have that one question for you, but I'm not asking it now because I don't want to ruin it. But,
okay.
Yeah,
we'll
it's an amazing book.
Good. Well, I'm glad you liked it. When you talk about the community, gosh, that is exactly what I'm trying to show, is that this little community where nobody is too busy. I think that's one of our big issues. I mean, that is my big issue. I am too busy to do anything outside of what's on my schedule for the day. This is something the Lord has been working on me, that my schedule is too packed. And but that's like, so we moved 2 years ago in the middle of COVID. March 2020, COVID started, we moved in June from Oklahoma, where we had lived for 24 years, to Texas, to the Austin area. And my goodness, y'all, it has been hard. I like it. I mean, I never wanted to move south. I'm from New England. I like cold weather. I like snow. I'm weird. I know that. But it was moving during COVID when you just felt like I can't go introduce myself to my neighbors because I don't want to offend anybody, or I don't want to. And so now here we are 2 years later, and I'm surrounded by houses, and I have met like 2 people. And this is one of my goals for this spring, is to go introduce myself to all the neighbors. But I mean, I have very little sense of community here, like I did it back in Oklahoma, even after 2 years because of COVID. And so these stories, and that sense of community is something that I crave, and I don't think I'm alone. I think a lot of us crave that sense of community. And of course, we have it with our churches, I hope, but it's just not the same as really just having this large group of people that I can count on these people no matter what. And so that's one of the, in earlier books, I have that little condo community, which there's a lot of condos in that part of the world. And so that's very normal for New England, people living in condominium complexes. And so I thought this is exactly what I sort of miss, is being so, and I live in a great house, I have a great neighborhood, but being so close to my neighbors that you can't help but go hi when you see them because they're 10 feet away. And, and now I live in this house where we all have these great big lots, but big enough lots that, someone could walk out of their house next door and you might not even know they were there. And so anyway, that was one of my things, is I miss community. I love that idea of a found family. It's not necessarily people that you are in your family, that you create a family with people. I love that idea. And so anyway, I'm glad that you got that out of it, because that was definitely one of the kinds of things I'm going for.
Yeah, you nailed it. And I think that you also hit it right on the head, that people nowadays, I don't know, if I look back at the beginning of 2020 and 2019, everybody was so busy back then, myself included, that when the lockdown first started, it was almost like a sigh of relief. At least it was for me. The first time that I can remember in my entire married life, my husband and I can't speak for him necessarily, but I would wake up before the alarm feeling rested. First time in like 20 years. And that said volumes to me. So I love the first part of the lockdown where we all got a chance to just breathe. We got to remember what life was like. We could slow down a little bit, although my work was just as busy, if not busier.
Mine too.
But now I think coming on the tail end of it, I think people are realizing the importance of connection. And I think that we're feeling the negative effects of it are going to far outlast the length of time that we were in the lockdown. But books like yours remind us the community is out there. And even just yesterday, I know this is just a very small example, but real life. So we were at the grocery store, my son and I, and we go to Aldi. That's one of the stores we go to. And a lady gave us her cart, didn't ask for a quarter. Again, very small example, but community. Here, have my cart, pay it forward, blah, blah, blah. We were in the store, we shopped, you have to bag your own stuff. We were busy bagging our own stuff, minding our own business. And these people next to us, they had 2 extra bags left over that they had bought. They gave them to us. And again, like I said, very, very small things, but I felt totally touched. I was like, I even said to the lady, I'm like, really? You don't mind? And she goes, no, take them, have them, have a great day. And I was like, oh my gosh. So like, I say that to say books like yours remind us of the importance of community and help us to have that hunger, reawaken that hunger for it. And then we have the responsibility to go out and to do those little things. It might just be little things, but maybe that's all that people can handle right now. But those little things, to start building that in the ways that we can.
I love that, and I'm touched that you think that my books encourage that, because that's exactly what I want. I want people to be looking up, to the Lord in their troubles, but also to be looking out to the world to see, who does need a touch. And then oftentimes, gosh, I don't have any heroes or any heroines who manage to get through their junk by themselves. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that's hard for us to learn, because I am very willing to be that person who jumps in and helps somebody else. But am I that person who's humble enough to say, hey, I need help. I need someone to come alongside me in this difficult journey. That's a lesson I have learned in my own life, my own past. Carrie knows all this stuff, but I have, I have 3 kids. My oldest started using drugs when he was 16. He got 16 rather, and got addicted. And we ended up having to. It was a terrible, it's an awful story. Like, you don't want that story, but it ended. It had a happy ending, because God is so sweet. Nick went to rehab, and then he lived in sober living, and then he went to youth with a mission, and now he's a missionary, and he tells the people all over the world about God. But the point is, I'm getting off track, is that I learned during that time, I just felt like the Lord said to me, if you try to do this alone, it's not going to work. You have got to tell everybody. And I was embarrassed, Here I had been a homeschool mom, I was a Christian, we were a nice Christian family, and all of a sudden I have these kids using drugs. But I told everybody. Because I did not, if that was true, if the Lord said to me, you need to tell everybody if you want to get through this, there was nothing that I wasn't willing to do to get my son clean. And so I told everybody everybody that I knew would pray for him, I told, and they prayed. I know Kara prayed for him and our little group, and it all worked out for the best. And I could not have done that without my community of writer friends and my church family and my actual family, And so then a couple of years later, my youngest son, I have 3 kids, the one in the middle, my daughter, and then the sons are the bookends. So my youngest was in a car accident, and a terrible car accident in another state, and it was awful. My sister called me at 9 o'clock at night and said, Robin, the boys have been in a terrible car accident. They're both alive. They're being life-flighted to Salt Lake City, and that's all I know. And then when I questioned her, the only other thing she said was, I know Jacob's alive because I could hear him screaming. And we're in Oklahoma, and he's in Utah. So that was a big deal in my life. That was a big moment in my life. But I was literally on the floor, my kitchen floor. I didn't fall, but I just sort of went to my knees. It took me about 3 minutes to go from what do I do to start texting people and telling them to pray, because I had learned from Nick all that stuff. The first thing you do is go to the Lord with it. The first thing you do. So I start texting people again. Everybody I knew who would pray, they started praying for him, and really he should have died. He didn't. He didn't die because I wholeheartedly believe that there were so many people praying for him that the Lord spared him. Because, he had 2 collapsed lungs, he had pneumothorax on both sides. The only reason that he even made it to the hospital is because the people behind them in the car, one of them was a medic and the other was a nurse, and they kept him alive and called the ambulance. I mean, it was a really big deal. But I learned from that and from what happened with Nick, that when you try to live life by yourself, you fail. And when you trust your junk to other people, the Lord steps in, because when we're two or more gathered. So anyway, that was sort of a long dissertation on on trusting other people. But that is one of the big messages of my book, is that you cannot do it alone.
I think that's
And Robin, I am so glad that you shared that, because not only was it you said it was kind of like a long dissertation, but oh my goodness, I think it hits to the heart of a lot of your books, the heart of what a lot of our readers people who read books like yours, and our listeners. I think it just hits to the heart of it. It's all about community. It's all about humbling ourselves and just asking for help when we need help. And it's all about God first, people second. And I remember receiving that urgent message from you about your son. And I was when he was in a car crash, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like what? And it was just so heart wrenching and everything else. And so, and I, having been able to kind of walk with you through that, from afar, because you're in Oklahoma, it was just, but it was such a blessing. Such a blessing to see how all of that unfolded and how God worked miraculously, right? And like you said, you just were able to reach out to everyone else. And it goes back to that community Sherry was talking about. It goes back to that community that you write about. It goes back to the Lord God, our Savior, whom we trust. It's just all of that is so significant. And we all deal with issues like that, even the not knowing our neighbors, you say, per se. And I think social media has a lot to do with that. Like in my own community, it seems as well, for instance, I know in a lot of communities they have like Facebook groups and things like that, and people interact a lot on there, but they don't know each other.
Right, exactly. So exactly. We've never seen these people in person in our lives. So
you don't see them.
Yeah, and you can't be vulnerable with people that you don't know. And true friendship, true community comes with vulnerability. It comes with that being able to say to somebody, I am in this terrible mess and I can't get out of it on my own. And until we can do that, we're always going to be alone, and our stuff isn't going to get worked out as well as it would if we had people with us. People on us, people praying for us, people walking through it with us. And that's one of the joys of life, is to walk with the people that the Lord puts in our lives.
And the people you meet along the way, and then you're kind of like, oh my goodness, how could I ever have done life without this person that I just happened to meet because I was vulnerable, right? So it's like, the people, I think it opens the door for God to put certain people in our path that we probably never would have crossed paths with, if we hadn't. And there was something you wanted to add, Sherry?
Oh, I'm actually just going to say that sitting here listening to you two, I'm going to issue a challenge to our listeners. It's the beginning of June. It's the beginning of summer. It doesn't matter if your kids are in school, if you don't have kids, if your kids are out of school. Summer is always a time where you kind of catch your breath. You have longer days, warmer days, no matter where you are, sometimes too hot of days, depending on where you're located. But I'm going to issue you a challenge, a good challenge. Ask God what your part is to play in the community that He has made your circle of influence. You have 3 months, 10 weeks now, because it's about the middle of June. So 10 weeks. What is your part to play? What role does God want you to play just for the summer? I'm not asking for a whole year. I'm not asking for your whole life. I'm asking for the summer. One thing that you can do. Well, no, I'm not even going to say that, because you're asking God and it's open-ended, and God's going to do it personally for you, which is the most exciting part of all. So what is your part to play? Ask God, what is your part to play for the next 10 weeks of how you can show community to your circle of influence? Because as Robin has said, which thank you so much for your testimony today, Robin, that was so encouraging. When we're vulnerable and we allow other people into our lives, it opens up, it gives them the encouragement to let us come into their lives. And when God works miracles like He has with both of your sons, we then can share that testimony and offer that hope to those who are dealing with other issues in their own families. And as John 16:33 tells us, these things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. God always gives us hope, whether it's through other people's testimonies, whether it's through His word Himself, whether it's through your church community, whether it's through life groups, whatever it is. God always gives us hope. He always points us back to hope. And when we have God, there always is hope. So if you're sitting here thinking and wondering and asking, I want to have that kind of a relationship with God. I want to feel his hope. Well, you can if you're his child. So if that's something that you would like to do today, I would like you to just repeat this simple prayer after me. And they say, God says in his word that if you say it and you believe it in your heart, then you will be saved. So if this is something that you want to do today, if you want to start your summer, not just in a community of other people, but if you want to start your summer as a member of God's family, then all you need to do is say the simple prayer, repeat it after me. Oh, Heavenly Father, I come to you in Jesus' name. I believe you died on the cross and that you rose again and you're seated on the throne. Jesus, forgive me for all that I have done wrong, and I choose to forgive all others. Come into my life today and forever. I am yours. In Jesus' name, amen. If you just prayed that prayer, we just want to say welcome to the family. We're so glad you're here, and get into a Bible-believing, biblical teaching church. Join that community, join that membership, and surround yourself with others who will help you grow. It's so exciting. There is nothing that I love more than growing in Christ myself and then sharing about him to other people. If you want to hear more about Robin and all of the books that she has so many. We could seriously be here for 2 hours talking about all of her books. They are so amazing. If you love romantic suspense or suspense romance, however you want to word it, head over to Robin's website. It's robinpatchen.com. So that's ROBINPATCHEN.com. If you want to hear more about Kara's paper dolls, head over to KaraRHunt.com, KARARHUNT.com. Or if you want to check out my books, both nonfiction and fiction, you can head over to my website, SherrySwalwell.com, CHERISWALWELL.com. We are so glad that you are here today. I hope that you enjoyed talking or listening as Robin shared a little bit about her books and shared even more about her life. If you need prayer or you want encouragement, head over to our email and cheeruppodcast@gmail.com. Write to us. We would love to encourage you. We would love to pray with you. That's more on the private side. So if you don't want your request made known to the public, talk to us over there or head over there. But if you want to be part of the Facebook community, the Cheer Up Podcast Facebook community, then head over to Facebook, join our group, Cheer Up Podcast, and you'll get to talk to not just Kara and I, but you'll get to talk to the community that's over there. And it's always growing, and we would love for you to be a part of it. Like I said, we are so glad that you were here today. Come back next week, and you'll get to hear, I believe that next week we're talking about Kara's book, Paper Dolls. I am so excited to get to talk about that one. I've read that one as well, and I can't wait till she finishes the rest of her series because I can't wait to see what happens next. So thank you again. Happy listening, and we will talk to you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.